We're going to make some changes to the center area. We're going to add in some detail to this inner part. We're going to adjust the curve. Mostly on the inner side, we'll adjust the inner curve. And then we will start bringing everything to the back side and creating all these details back here. So to start out, we're just going to go back to our file. We're going to tab into edit mode, and the first thing I'd like to do is get rid of some of these edges here we have, or these edge loops I should say. We have quite a few loops going through to the center, which isn't really a good idea. Like when you add subdivisions, you're gonna have like some extra, it just looks weird because you have like this shiny area and then it's, it just doesn't look as good as it should. And it's mostly because we have an uneven distribution of our edge loops. We have 3 that are really close. We have, some different spacing here. It'd just be a lot easier if we reduced how many loops we have going towards the center, as well as spacing them out better. So we have to keep the center line, and of course we have to keep the diagonal line, and I'm going to keep these 2 as well. So what we want to do is space these 2 between the 2 edges here. So we're going to right click on this, hold control, right click on this. That's going to select this whole line of vertices. Then we're going to press Q. That's going to slide these over. And we're going to do the same here, right click, control right click, Q. And the goal is to try to get even spacing from here to here, here to here, and then here to the end. So you just want to adjust your loops using the same selection method as well as using Q until you have relatively even spacing there. Then we're going to get rid of these 2 inner loops. So we're going to select this one, hold control, select this one, delete, dissolve edges, do the same here, select, control select, delete, dissolve edges, select these 2, hold shift, select this one, alt M at last. It's going to merge it over. So now you can see we have fairly even spacing here. With subdivision it looks a bit better than it did before. So I'm going to remove that subdivision. Don't worry about the curvature. It's not totally circular, but we'll deal with that later. So another thing we wanted to do is make adjustments to the inside here, but before we do that I actually just remembered I should probably do this other part first. So one thing I changed on this one was I changed how, or at least the spacing here. So this one's a little bit larger and then this other one's a little bit smaller. This last one's quite a bit bigger than both of the others. On mine at least, or my current model, it's not quite like I would like it. Like this initial one needs to be a little bigger and this one needs to be a little smaller and then this one needs to be a little bigger. So I'm going to make adjustments on my model, and you can make adjustments on your model if you feel you need to. So I'm just going to alt right click on this, control plus, and then alt shift right click to get this. So we have these 4, 3 for side view, change this to 3D cursor, S, shift and X, scale this until this is bigger and this is smaller. We're going to do something similar here, alt right click, control plus again, 3 for side view, S, shift and X, bring this down a little to make it a little bit bigger. Not perfect, but it's a little bit better than it was. I'm just comparing. I think I want to make mine a little smaller on this one, so same selection method, and maybe make this one a little smaller as well. Just whenever you're scaling, make sure you do shift and X so it's not scaling on the x-axis. So I think that should look fine with subdivisions. That looks pretty decent. Maybe make this one a little bigger. And then we'll be good to move on to the next part. Okay, that should be fine. Next, we want to add details into here. I also want to flatten this out, so we're going to make sure we're in edit mode. And another thing I wanted to do before we go too far is get rid of the vertices we don't need. So like this right here is a straight line, so we don't need this vertex. So select it, shift select this one, Alt M at last. We'll just get rid of that one. There's one on the bottom as well. So go to the bottom. You can use number pad period to focus in on your selection. So this is a straight line, so this one can go away. So we're going to select this one, shift select this one, Alt M at last. So those are gone. Go to face select and select these two faces, Control plus to increase the selection. Change this to median point, S, X, and then 0. Press enter. It's going to flatten it out on the x-axis, which is important for the last step when we bring it towards the back. It's going to make it better for that situation. Now what we want to do is make this sort of inward, then back, then in, then back again. We want to make it look like this, similar to how it's like this. It's sort of a style thing that makes it, the inner part, look like the outer part. So what we're going to do is select these two faces, just the inner two faces. And then we're going to do I, then B. Make a small inset, or a fairly, well, do a decent inset, I guess. Then do I, then B, and do another little inset. Something like that. And then E to extrude, right click to cancel, bring it back on the x-axis. You may want to press period on the number pad. Kind of get your view in a good position. And just move it on the x-axis until it's slightly further back than the original set of vertices. Once you're happy with the position, do I, then B, do a small inset, and then of course we want to do another inset, but this one's going to be slightly bigger than the first one. So we're going to do I, then B, just try to make this one slightly bigger than the first one, then do I, then B. Then you can do E to extrude, right click to cancel, and bring this back on the x-axis. So you got this. We can actually delete these faces because this is going to be a hole at the end. It's going to be a hole straight through. So we can actually get rid of these faces. Just do delete, choose faces, and that will get rid of that. So now we have a nice little area that looks similar to this area. To correct this curvature, like the curvature on this part right here looks nice, but when we look at the curvature on the inside, it really doesn't look nice. So I kind of wanted to fix that and make sure that the curvature on the outside here is the same as the curvature on the inside here, or at least as close as possible. So we're going to go into edit mode, we're going to do vertex select. And another thing I wanted to do is kind of straighten out from here to here instead of having it kind of go in some and then over. I wanted it more straight. So I'm going to select this vertex and then go over here, shift select this vertex, and then press F. That's going to make an edge, a perfectly straight edge. So now we can make some vertices to connect these down. We have 6 vertices. I'm going to do Control R, left click, and then G twice to slide this down. So that's one vertex. And then we're going to make 5 in between this. So I'm going to do Control R, mouse wheel up until there's 5, left click, and now we have 6 in total. So I'm just going to merge these original ones down to these that are on the straight edge. So I'm going to select this one, shift select this one, Alt M at last. select, Shift R to repeat, and then continue merging them to the correct vertex. The bottom one should have gone to the bottom one, and then eventually the top one should have been merged to the top one. And it should look like this when you're done. Everything should look nice. In order to get this curvature, we're going to use a similar method to how we got the curvature here, where we created a bowl shape. But this time, we're going to use the existing vertices. We're still going to have to make adjustments to it, but this will be a little bit closer of a shape to the original shape. So what we can do is select this vertex, hold Control, right click to select all these, Shift E to duplicate, right click to cancel, press P on the number pad, which will separate, and choose selection. So press P, then choose selection. Tab to go to object mode, right click in this area. That's going to select those vertices here. Just press tab. You can now see we have those vertices here. Now what we're going to do, actually, I'm not sure we needed these. But, alright, we'll just go with it for now. We'll just press A twice so we have all these. Make sure this is on median point. Do S, Y, and then 0 to make it 0 on the Y-axis. Then go up here, go all the way to the top. If this window's not open, press N or click on the plus sign. Left click on the Y value, put in 0 and press enter. That's going to make sure it's perfectly at the 0 point. And just to be sure, we're going to do W and remove doubles. Alright, so we're all set. Didn't remove anything, we're good. So what we're going to use is the spin tool. We're just going to go over here, click on spin, it's in tools, click on spin. By default it does 90 degrees. And also we still have these modifiers that we don't need, so over here we're going to click the X, and then over here we're going to click the X. We don't need the modifiers for this. And that's actually going to get rid of the little spin tool options. So what we're going to do is Alt right click, Control I to invert the selection, delete vertices, now press A to select. Do spin again. By default it's 90 degrees, we want 360, so change the angle to 360 and press enter. Change the steps to 30, that should be fine. All the rest of the settings are perfectly fine, so press tab, turn on smooth shading, so you should be in object mode, turn on smooth shading. Now we have this. If you want to, you can do A twice and you can adjust the positioning of this to wherever you feel is appropriate. Now we're going to select the rim in object mode, select the rim, and we're going to add a modifier, do a shrink wrap modifier, move it to the top by clicking on the up arrow on the shrink wrap modifier, click target, click on the new circle we created, change from nearest to project, turn off positive, turn on the x-axis because we only want these vertices to move in the x direction. We're going to leave both of these options off for now because neither of them are going to give us a good result. And in order to get a good result, we're going to have to use this vertex group option. So we're going to press tab to go to edit mode, right click to select this, hold control, right click. So now we have all these. These are the vertices that we want to be affected by the shrink wrap modifier. So we need to make a group of them so that we can use this group variable. So we're going to go over to here, to the data tab. You see vertex groups, we're going to click the plus sign. That's going to create a new vertex group. But these vertices have not been added to that group yet. In order to add them to the group, you have to click assign. That's going to assign them to the group. We also want the vertices on the inside to be part of that group, so we're going to right click on this vertex, hold Control, right click on this vertex, and before we assign them we actually have to select the original vertices as well. So we can just click on this select button. It'll select all the vertices that are currently part of the group and keep our current selection, and now we can click assign. Now back in the modifiers tab, click on the vertex group, choose the group we just made. So now the only vertices that will be affected by the shrink wrap are the vertices that are in this group. So in other words, only the vertices that we have selected right now will be affected. So now what we want to do is select on this bowl shape that we have. Just go to object mode, select this thing, press tab, and just bring it back some so that it's further on the x-axis than the rest of these vertices. These inner ones on the rim will have to adjust, and we're also going to adjust this shape as we go along. Then press tab again, select the rim, press tab. So we're going to move these vertices forward some. So we're going to select this one, hold Control, select this one, Z for wireframe, and then bring these back some, just so that they are further along than this piece. And I just noticed, you can see the seam right here. That's because we have duplicate vertices on the spin modifier, gave us duplicate vertices. So just go to object mode, select this piece again, press tab, A twice if you need to select everything, W, remove doubles. You should see removed 8. Tab again, select the rim, and now we're going to turn on negative. So you should see a difference once you turn on the negative option. And actually we want to, no, I think we do want to project. It should all be fine, it's just not looking the way I want it to. So now we can just adjust these here by alt right clicking and moving their X position to adjust the shape of this. And if you want to, you can even hide this object in object mode, and then it will get you a better idea of what the current shape is. Then you can do Control Z to unhide it, and then go back and adjust these vertices again. The goal is just to get a nice smooth shape similar to what we had before, and then it will be transferred over to the inside automatically, so that the inside and the outside have the same curvature. That's really what the goal was, because I was happy with the outside curvature, but the inside curvature wasn't the best previously. So now we're just adjusting this guide mesh until we have a shape that we're more satisfied with. You're just alt right clicking, moving it on the x-axis, alt right clicking again, moving it on the x-axis, tab to object mode, H to hide this thing. That'll give you an idea of what the curve is looking like. Then you can do Control Z to bring back the object, and then adjust it some more depending on what you feel is appropriate. If you want to, you can actually go to this guide mesh and go to side view and just scale it out more, and that should make it affect this vertex as well as this other vertex. So the outer part just needs to be bigger than those two vertices, because I believe those are part of our group. Yeah. So those are part of our group. So now that this is bigger than that, it will also affect those. And you can even slide some of these edges around with Q if you want to, until you get a better shape here. So it's just a matter of adjusting everything until you're happy. And you can even do Control B to create more subdivisions in this area if you feel it's not smoothing out appropriately. So you see that made it kind of smoother in that area. So that's another thing you can do, is use Control B to help you smooth this out. But it's just a bunch of fiddling around with things until you get a result that you are happy with. I just wanted it skinnier on this part and then starting to curve a bit. I wasn't really happy with the fact that it was too wide at the top there. So this looks pretty decent, I would say. Maybe some slight adjustment. But I think I'll just go with this for the sake of this. You can mess with yours a bit more. Just when you're done, if you don't have Control Z to unhide this, just do Alt H. That's going to unhide everything. Then you can select the things that you want to hide. So this original bowl that we used, you can select it, press H, select the empty and the circle, and press H on those, and then you just have this. But once you're done adjusting this shape, you can just press H and hide it, and you should have your rim with a nice curvature to this area and a nice curvature to this area. So you can select your rim, go to the modifiers tab. So once you're happy with this, we're going to apply it. So make sure that you're actually happy with it, because we're not going to be going back and fixing it. So just apply it once you're done and you're happy. And next we want to go back and make sure these are all at the same X value. Same with these. So we're going to select this one, shift select this one, and then select these three. So you see you have these three and these three, but it's technically two because it's mirrored. And then do S, X, and then 0. Press enter. Should see some slight movement probably. That just makes sure they have the same X value. So that is all set. Now what we're going to start doing is just bringing this back. And then we can start connecting the back part, bringing the circular areas back. So we're going to press tab, make sure you're in edit mode. We want to connect these two vertices, so we're going to select both of these, press F, Control R, and if you need to, just move your view so that you can get it right on this edge. So do Control R, mouse wheel up once, left click, so now you should have two extra vertices here. You can press 3 to go into side view, Z for wireframe, switch this to 3D cursor, S, Shift and X, scale this out some until this curve is more circular. Then you can Alt right click, Shift and select all these other vertices so you have that circular area. 3 for side view, Alt Shift and S. It's going to do 2 sphere, just go until it says 1 at the bottom left. Left click. So now we're all set. We have a circular object, or a circular area here. So now we can do E to extrude, right click to cancel, change this to median point. Actually, we're going to leave this on 3D cursor, because what we need is we need an edge loop right here close to keep this shading looking nice. We're going to do S, Shift and X, bring it in slightly, and actually we needed to bring it out first, but that's okay. We can just bring it out on the x-axis a bit, and we can do A twice, Control N, recalculate the normals, tab to object mode, turn on smooth shading again, tab to go back to edit mode, Control R, left click and drag this up to help correct the shading, Alt right click on this, bring it a little bit further out if you feel you need to. This area is not too big, but it's something like this approximately. Then you can do S, Shift and X and scale it in slightly, because I do believe the inner part is slightly scaled in. Then we're going to do E to extrude, right click to cancel, S, Shift and X. Do a very small scale like this. And actually, I think I want to do maybe a little bit more. So do S, Shift and X, scale it maybe a little bit more than that. And then bring it back some on the x-axis. So it should be a little bit further back than that original one. Then do E to extrude, right click to cancel, S, Shift and X. And then do a small one right here, and that'll just help with the shading once we get to that part. So now what we need is to bring this all towards the center, and this center piece actually continues all the way back, sort of like these things right here. But we need to make some adjustments to this back or center part before we actually bring it back. So one of the first things is Alt right click on this, and we want to make this a little smaller, so bring it forward some until it's smaller like this. Let's look at my reference real quick. And then another thing about this is it on the back side, if you look at it from the back side, it has this little inner lip that you can only see from the backside pretty much. So we're going to have to create that. I'm going to make this a little smaller first. And then do E to extrude, right click to cancel, S, Shift and X, and scale this out slightly. I don't think it's too big. Yeah, it's pretty small. So that should be good right there. So E to extrude, right click to cancel. You can just do G then X to bring it, or to move it on the x-axis if you want. If the little gizmo is kind of hard to select the red arrow, just do G then X, and that'll do the same thing. I just usually like the gizmo. It's really a preference. It's not necessary. It does the same exact function, so it's up to you. And then it has this this other sort of type thing here, so we're gonna have to create that. So we're gonna bring this back some. That's probably good there. We can adjust it if we need to. Then we're going to do E to extrude, right click to cancel, S, Shift and X. Bring it out some, then G, then X, bring it out some more. And this one actually needs to meet up perfectly with these vertices. So we're going to do G, then X, hold Control and snap. And we can see we need to move this one further out. So we're going to Alt right click, G then X, bring it further out, but not quite as far as that other one, so just adjust it as necessary with G then X until you're happy with it. We'll correct the shading and create the crease lines later. So we will need another loop going around for correcting shading. And it's easier in this case to add it now, so we're just going to Alt right click, E right click to cancel, S, Shift and X, bring it out slightly. So we have this correction edge, or shading correction edge, this shading correction edge. Now we have this selected, so we're going to do Alt and Shift, right click to select this edge loop. Shift and Q to do bridge edge loops. If you don't have that, just go to Mesh, Edges, Bridge Edge Loops, and that'll do the same exact thing. So now we have our shape. We still need the holes, and we're going to do that with Knife Project. And we still need to clean up this shading here. It doesn't look very good, so we want it to look more like this, nice and crisp. So to do that, we're going to go to Face Select and Alt right click, I then B, make a small little inset. So that's going to create a supporting edge on the top. It's going to create a supporting edge on the bottom. We're going to do the same here, Alt right click, I then B. Again, it's going to create a supporting edge on the top and bottom, so you can start to see we're getting that nicer shading that we want. Alt right click, I then B. Small inset, Alt right click, I then B. And there we go. And I think maybe, nope, I think we're good on this actually. I think we are good, except what I think I want to do is go to Vertex Select, Alt right click on this, and Q to slide it closer so that it's not creating such of a strange shading problem over here. Just adjusting both of those, and that looks pretty good. I think when we add the, yeah, I guess I kind of had a little bit of a lighter shading there too. That's kind of just how it is, I guess. So the next thing is to add in those circles. I tried a couple ways of doing it, and the best result, in my opinion, was to just do the Knife Project, and you'll get a result like this. I like the topology better, even though it's still, you have triangles here, but it still looks pretty clean. I tried a different method where I just had the circle and then I filled in the faces from there, and it just didn't look as good. So I'm gonna do Knife Project. So for that, we're going to do Z for wireframe, Alt right click on this circle area. So we have that circle we kind of brought back earlier. Just do Alt right click, Shift D to duplicate, right click to cancel, change this to median point, bring this back. So now you should have the circle further back than this part here. Do P to separate, choose selection, tab, to object mode, select your circle, and on the circle you want to delete your modifiers here. That should be fine, I guess, that it's not a full circle, that should be fine. And now what we want to do, I think that should be fine. We'll see if it's not fine in a minute. We just want to hold Shift and right click on the rim. So we had the knife selected, and then we selected the rim, and we're going to press Tab to go to edit mode. Control 3 to go to left view, which is the opposite of right view. And then we're going to do knife project to get our circle. Now we can press tab, select our little knife here, delete it because we don't need it, so press delete and just delete it. Select the rim again, press tab. What we're going to do, because we want an edge running around this, so what we're going to do is I and then B. This is going to do an inset, but actually we don't want to do an inset because we want the innermost circle to be the circle that we already used. So instead we want to do an outset, which you can see the option just below my mouse. To turn it on is the O button. So just press the O button, and now when you adjust your mouse you can see that the inset is now being done on the outside instead, which is actually exactly what we want. So just do a small outset in this case and left click. As usual, this is just to correct the shading. And then we're going to do delete and choose faces. That's going to delete those faces and make the hole. Go to vertex select. And we actually want to alt right click on this. And we're going to delete it because we actually don't need it. So we're just going to do delete and choose vertices. And we're going to need to do a little cleanup on this. So what we have to do, anywhere there's a straight edge, the vertices in between the straight edge need to be merged over. So we're going to select this one, shift select this one, alt M at last, and repeat that process. Go down here, so this is straight it seems, so we're going to take this one and merge it over here, and this one merge it over here. This is straight, so we're going to take this one, merge it over, same with that one. So now we don't have any extra vertices. We don't want any extra vertices because we want this circle to have the same vertex count as this circle. So we have 11 vertices and 11 vertices. It's exactly the way it should be. So you want to alt right click on this one to get this, alt and shift right click on this one to get this one. So now we have the front circle and the back circle. Again, you're going to do shift and Q for bridge edge loops. If you don't have that hotkey, go to mesh, edges, and choose bridge edge loops. So now we have this. We probably want to do I and then B, do a small inset, and that will help to correct the shading in that area. So that looks nice, looks good. And if you want to see kind of how the final result will look, make sure you're in object mode and you can do Control 2. So that's Control plus 2 above the letters on your keyboard. And I can see I actually forgot to do something, but doing Control 2 will add in this subsurf modifier at the bottom of your modifiers tab. So if you're in the modifiers tab, go to the bottom and it's going to add in a subdivision surface modifier with a value of 2. But there's a couple more things I want to do, like correcting the shading here. So to do that, I'm just going to click this I. It's going to temporarily disable the subsurf. Go back into edit mode, go to face select, So the reason we're getting this crazy shading problem is because we have an N-gon here. So if you go to face select and select this one face has 13 vertices. The quickest way to fix this is to just do Control and T. That's going to do triangulate faces, and really we would have ended up with triangles anyway, because when you have a circular shape like this, it's not easy to make it into quads because of the way that these are shaped. It's not the best explanation, but if I was to, for example, try to delete one of these edges, the reason this doesn't really work as a quad is because it has, would you call it a concave shape, I guess? I'm not sure if that's the correct term for it, but instead of having this vertex go out a bit, when it goes in a bit, it actually causes a problem because this one's going to try to connect to this one, because those are the two outermost vertices. I guess that's not the best way of explaining it, but that's kind of how it works. So you have to have a triangle here instead, because then this will be a face instead of trying to make a face all the way over here first. So we would have ended up with triangles anyway. So in this case, just doing Control T is quick, and it's also an effective way to do it. That was the point I was trying to make. I think maybe we can get rid of these vertices here. So if we select this one, hold Control, select this one, do delete, dissolve edges, and then merge these over, and merge this over, I do believe we can do that and get away with it. So now that we have this area all cleaned up, we can turn on this subdivision surface modifier, and you can see we have a lot nicer result here. In the end, as I've mentioned before, we're probably going to use subdivision surface because the goal, or at least my goal on this model, is to try to make a more realistic rim versus the lower poly rims that we've made before. So I'm going to turn this off again. And the other thing I wanted to do is fill in this area on the back. So to do that, we're going to do tab for edit mode. We're going to alt right click. That's going to get this whole area here. We're going to do F to make a face. We're going to do Control T. That's going to triangulate the faces again. We're going to go to Mesh, Faces, and we're going to do tries to quads. So this is going to do its best job to turn triangles into quads. So we're just going to click it, see what happens. In this case, it does a decent job. It's usually not very good, to be honest. It's usually not the best function to use, but it did do a little bit of cleanup for us. So it's not so bad in this case. So we're going to select this vertex, and we're going to go to the top, and we want to select this vertex. So hold shift and select this one, make sure you have the other one selected too, and press J. That's going to create a nice straight edge loop between those two. Then select this one, hold shift and select this one and press J. Again, it's going to create a straight edge loop. This helps mostly for when we do the subdivision surface. It's going to look a lot nicer with those straight edges. If you did it without them, so if I do it without them, it looks pretty crappy, to be honest. So putting them back in again. These are kind of like supporting edge loops, but not really. But they kind of serve the same purpose as a supporting edge loop. So now we can go to edge select and select these two edges, do delete, dissolve edges. So now we have one extra quad here. And if we want to, we can do further cleanup. I'm going to get rid of some of these edges to start out. We're just going to delete some of these edges so that we know what we're dealing with. So this one needs to go over to here, so we're going to do J. Get rid of these edges. This one needs to go over to here, do J. Get rid of these edges. This one can go over to here. Delete these edges. And then, so now we have all quads again. This is the only one now we can do Alt-M at center and repeat that with Shift-R. So that just allowed us to keep one of these other vertices and maintain better curvature in that area. So that was kind of the purpose of doing that. Because since this is a really curved shape, having extra vertices here helps to keep the shape more smooth. So getting rid of them was nice, but it's nicer to actually keep them in this case. So now we can turn on the subdivision surface, take a look at what we have. It is looking pretty good. So we can save it, just go to File and Save. There's one little thing to fix, and it's actually on the back side of the rim. So just go to the back side of the rim, zoom in a bit, and go to where these holes are. You can press Tab and focus in on the area with number pad period by selecting a vertex here if you want. So this is a better illustration of what I was talking about before when you have a concave shape like this. I believe that's what it's called. You know, correct me if I'm wrong. But you can see how it's trying to create a face or an edge here on these two outermost vertices. I mean, technically this one's the outermost vertex, but you can see what it's trying to do here, where it's trying to create an edge where it should not be creating an edge. So that's kind of the problem I was talking about before with these concave face shapes. So if we go to face select and select this face, in this case it's an N-gon, and that's why we're getting it, or getting this problem. But you can also get this problem with quads as well if you have them in a similar configuration where they have a concave shape. But to fix it in this case, we're just going to select this face in face select and do Control T again to do triangulate faces. And you can now instantly see that that problem is gone because it's no longer trying to create the edge here where it should not be creating an edge. So now we have correct shading on the back. We also want to go to vertex select and get rid of this N-gon here and this one here as well actually. So we can just select this vertex and hold shift, select this one, J to join, and do the same up here, select these two, J to join. So that should get rid of all of the N-gons, I do believe, and everything still seems to look fine. Just double checking, make sure that we got the N-gons out of the way. I do believe that should be all of them. So now we're all set, and we can go to File and Save.